Hello, my name is Robin Ryde and I'm the Programme Director for the Executive Fellows Programme, and I wanted to make this video to first of all welcome you as a participant to the EFP, but also to take a little bit of time to help you prepare for the experience that you'll be having on the programme in the next few weeks. I have some suggestions for you to think about, and this will be accompanied in some ways by the written material that we've sent you. So hopefully this will just help you hit the ground running. So I guess the first thing I wanted to say is, because you're going on a 3-week programme, which is a fairly significant chunk of time out of your diary, there's always a kind of risk of being brought back into work matters. And in some senses that may be unavoidable, but I suppose what we'd recommend from past experience is that you think about how you will plan to extract yourself fully from your work so that you can give as much attention as possible to the programme. And part of this may be about delegating your work to those around you, to colleagues, and I guess what we'd encourage is to view that kind of activity as not only a way to allow you to focus on the programme, but to develop those people around you, to help them step into that leadership space. So we see you going on the programme learning even more about leadership, but you have those back at the ranch also learning more about leadership as a result of the work you give to them. The second thing that I wanted to say is that we will have sent you a fair amount of pre-reading, and I first of all hope that wasn't too much of a shock. I guess what it reflects is the kind of pedagogy of the programme. So this is not really the kind of programme where you have a lecturer at the front of the room standing up and telling you how the world is. It's much more around dialogue and conversation. So most of the readings that you've been given are case materials, and what will often happen in those sessions when you join them is, rather than them beginning with a theory or some taught ideas, we will go straight into a conversation. So the presumption is that you've read the materials, and not only will you be in the room as a participant hearing what other participants are saying, but we want you to participate really fully, and so the more you're familiar with the materials, the more able you are to do that. So that was the second thing that I wanted to say. The third thing is really just to encourage you to take yourself a coffee on your own before the programme, and just take a bit of time to think about what you'd like to get out of it. You'll see from the materials the kind of topics that we're covering. They're themes like strategy, like innovation, like systems thinking, leading change, and so on. So I guess those will be of interest, I'm sure, and of value to you in your work, but there may be particular elements of that or particular additional areas you want to learn from, and it'd be really helpful, I think, if you were able to take the time just to capture those, to write them down, and find a way to get as much value and contribution to those themes as you can, whether that's from the tutors or whether it's from peers that you meet on the programme. And while you're doing that, I'd encourage you to find some time to hook up, to have a conversation with your line manager, so you can just share expectations and understanding of what you get from the programme. What we find is that people often return from the Fellows programme brimming with ideas. Great ideas, fantastic ideas, things they want to change, but your line manager, of course, is part of your authorising environment, and to help them be ready for that will make it much easier when you return with some new ways of doing business. So please do grab a bit of time with your line manager if you can. Just a few more. The fourth area that I wanted to talk about was about the participants you'll meet on the programme. So sometimes people that join the EFP are surprised to know that we have about 60 to 65 participants per run. So it's quite a big endeavour, it's quite a big group of people, and it can be a little bit overwhelming when you first arrive there, seeing so many people queuing up for coffee, and many of which you probably won't know. You might know a number from your jurisdiction, but most perhaps you won't know. So we'll help you with that. We'll provide you with a kind of participant booklet with all the biographies for all the people you're meeting, and not only in terms of the role that they hold or what they have been doing before then, but some of their a kind of context where they've come from and that kind of thing. So that will help. But this is just an encouragement not to be overwhelmed by the number of people that arrive on the programme. And also to let you know that we construct the programme so you work sometimes in the whole group of 65, sometimes we divide you into streams of 2, so working with about 32 people at a time. We put you into groups of 6 or 7, what we call leadership challenge groups. We'll have you in session working in 3s and pairs, and so we guarantee by the time you get to the end of the programme you'll know everybody. And some people are a lot better than others, of course, but you'll get to know everybody. The fifth thing that I wanted to say is that it's quite a busy programme, so expect to start the programme around 8:30 in the morning. We finish up each day around 5:30, and probably a couple of days a week we have evening sessions. So sometimes that might be dinner with an external speaker, on other occasions it might be activities, on some occasions it might be travelling from one place to another. So it's just good to know that in advance. We will give you the timetable so that if you do need to make calls at various points, whether that's back to people at home or to work, you can do that. But just be prepared for the busyness of the programme. And think about ways in which you can find spaces to rest or to gather some strength. Some people make sure they go to the gym. Some people make a point out of getting fitter as they come off the programme. Whatever it may be, do find some time to replenish your energy as we go through the programme. The final thing I wanted to say is that we really do have some fascinating themes to explore. And just to help you think about these now, the reading will do that, of course, as well, but just so you're aware, we spend some of the programme talking about public value and what this concept, this notion means, and what constitutes public value. So the idea being when you do the work that you do, to what extent do you deliver public value, can you deliver more, how do we even recognise and quantify it? So that'll be one of the themes that we explore. We also look to a great extent into the operating environment. So we look to the political sphere to see what's happening there. We'll be bringing in representatives of that world, if you like, whether they are serving or former ministers or people who are very active in that space, perhaps even chiefs of staff, that kind of thing. We bring in people from the media as well. We'll be discussing matters of the traditional media, but also the new media and how that affects us and how we connect to that. We'll be talking about a whole range of activities that belong in that operating environment that both help to steer what we do, but sometimes frustrate what we can do. And we'll hopefully equip you with some thinking and approaches to be more effective at that when you leave. We look at strategy. We ask the question, what is strategy in the public service? How does that differ from perhaps an understanding of strategy in the private sector, which in some respects is more easy to get our heads around, in the sense that you have a quantifiable monetary value that arises from success in the private sector, but that's certainly not the case in the public sector. We'll be spending a week in Singapore. This is a truly exciting piece of the programme. And we are there for 2 reasons really. One is because that gives us an opportunity to get our hands around an entire public service system. It's complex and challenging enough for it to be interesting and to generate great learning, but it's not so big that we can't get to a lot of the areas of that system. So that's one reason why we go there. The second reason is because Singapore, of course, is a hub in Asia, a hugely successful hub in terms of economic positioning, in terms of strategic positioning, diplomatic relations, and so on. And I suppose it helps us think about, from a perspective of Australia or New Zealand, what is our identity, what is our role in Asia, how do we see that unfolding in the future? For that week, it'll largely be immersive, so we won't be it's not that we won't be teaching you things, you'll be learning a great deal. It's more that we're putting you in scenarios, going out to visits, visiting corporations, visiting housing projects and so on and so forth, and inviting you to draw the learning from that yourself. So it's quite an active week. We also engage in topic of leadership from multiple angles. So we look at questions of what does leadership involve during times of crisis, how does that differ from business as usual. We look at leadership over large-scale change programs internally, for example. We look at notions of authentic leadership, what does it mean to be an authentic leader. We look at adaptation, so we borrow a lot from the work of Ronald Heifetz, who talks about how do we adapt to a rapidly changing environment. And much of what he says is that although intellectually we recognise we have to change often in organisations, our culture sets us in a path of thinking and a path of activity, and so sometimes as leaders we need to shake that up to a degree as well. We'll also be looking at questions of gendered leadership, of Indigenous leadership, a whole range of perspectives. So by the time you come out of the programme, hopefully you get a really good sense of how you can draw from that body of knowledge about leadership. And also, towards the end of the programme, we're going to be spending a bit of time thinking about the future, about the year 2030, about how we see change unfolding going forward. And that could be in terms of technology, in terms of urbanisation, in terms of demographics, in terms of lots of different things. So I won't say any more about the programme, not least because you'll get a bit more information on this and we'll tell you about it on day one. But I just thought in terms of content you'd benefit from knowing some of the themes we're exploring, and you may want to read up on some of those if you have a particular interest. So I hope this has been useful for you as a very short video. We very much look forward to seeing you on the programme, and the team that we have here are happy to take inquiries or to respond to any questions you have between now and when you start very shortly. So thank you very much for listening.